You hosted Up Close for a few years when you were with ESPN, and I'd say the most famous interview that you did was O.J. Simpson in 1998. Was that also the hardest interview of your career?
Yes, that was definitely, and it was controversial, not from the sense that I was going to do it when we had the opportunity, but I think some people, even at ESPN, even in our own company, were like, why do you want to put that guy on the air? You know what I mean? We've already, and I was like, well, because I'm certainly not going to talk football with him. I told him when he wanted to come on, and he wanted to come on. I mean, he said because I've watched this. First of all, we were trying to get him on years before all of this happened with the alleged double murder and which the evidence was overwhelming, and then the wrongful death lawsuit. But so that'll happen. Then he's years after that, not years, but it was I think a little bit after that second trial
Yeah.
that his attorney said, hey, he's willing to come on, but it's two conditions. You have to do it live, and you can't ask about his children. And he said, OJ thinks Chris is fair and wants to go. So I think, and we were glad to do it and meet those conditions. But I said I have to ask whatever I want to ask. I thought it was a good thing for people to see him in a live situation. I think Barbara Walters was supposed to get that first live interview, but he didn't. I'm sorry, that first interview, but she wouldn't do it live, and he
Okay.
wouldn't do it unless it was live because he didn't want to be edited. And I had to prepare differently than sports. Legal material and court documents, and I met with prosecutors and police and defense attorneys so that I would at least in that amount of time be prepared for how he would respond to certain things, and so that I asked the questions that people wanted to know after watching. We were all glued to the trial and post comments and things like that. But it was one of the greatest challenges, I would say, in the business that I've ever had to run into.
And during that interview, you asked OJ if he was capable of killing someone, and I think that was a telling question, and it was a little bit chilling to even hear it. With something that bold, like, do you almost have to build confidence during the conversation to be able to ask a question like that, or is that something going into the interview that that you're going to ask that?
Yeah, I had some things I wanted to cover, and again, the most important thing in doing an interview is listening to what they're saying and following up. And if you go back, you can watch the interview on YouTube, and
Yeah.
you'll see there's some contentious moments. But you're right about that. That question was one I knew Brandon he wasn't going to come out. Well, I didn't know, but I figured he wasn't going to come out and say, "Hey, I did it." You
Yeah.
can whatever, but double jeopardy. But I wanted to have a question. It's not a gotcha question, but where people at home could see his reaction on what he said. I was surprised, as you said, it was chilling. I mean, some of the things he said were, but I went in saying, I'm going to work that question in somewhere. I think it's important to are you capable of killing? Because he had been watching some of the things you'd done and what went on in the court documents, his stories and things were like searching for the real killers. Right. I mean, I asked him like, who can you show us, give us a name of a detective, private eye, whoever, a check you wrote, something that would prove that you're really searching other than you're out on a golf course. I mean, I wasn't that sarcastic, but I was thinking that. So,
Yeah.
and I tried to be fair. I mean, even though when I looked at all the evidence going into this thing and stuff that even I think the jury never got to see. I mean, it was overwhelming. There wasn't any doubt. I mean, the only doubt was, did he have some help in cleaning things up or doing what he did? But that was a question. There were a few that I wanted to, and that, remember, we were supposed to do a half-hour live up close interview with him, and once we got rolling, I think the executives at ESPN thankfully said, "Hey, let's keep going. This is, we don't want to cut this short." So we ended up doing 50 or whatever, almost an hour type of thing, which we had a lot more to get to. But I appreciated that he at least did the interview and let people judge for themselves
Yeah.
based on his answers. That was kind of the goal there.